Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I have one singular goal. I'm going to try and get some wins in the Retro Cup with Ledian. Ledian is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, and it received two big move updates this season, getting access to Rollout and Acrobatics. However, the Retro Cup is a very psychic-heavy meta, so I'm thinking of actually ditching Rollout for Bug Bite. This means I'm going to have a lot slower pacing, but it will mean that I have insane fast move pressure into Pokemon like Oranguru. For the rest of the team, I'm running Primeape and Shadow Aurorus. Is this the best team you could use in the Retro Cup? Definitely not, but today, I'm just looking to have some fun. So, without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we pick up a dominant lead in the first match, Ledian into Furret. One of the reasons why I did want to run Bug Bite is Bug Bite Ledian absolutely obliterates Furret. Furret is probably the most common Pokemon in this meta, and look how much damage I'm doing just off the Bug Bites. I haven't even landed a charge attack yet, and the Furret's already lost half their health. Furret can overfarm quite a bit and fire off a Swift, but guess what? I'm an XL Ledian. I'm just simply too bulky. Swift does not take the knockout. I make a second Dynamic Punch, and I'm going to either get both shields or win Switch Advantage and Shield Advantage. Furret is going to get knocked out. My opponent now going to send in an Annihilape, and Annihilape is a problem Pokemon for this team. They get a huge farm down, and I'm going to be sending in Primeape. Primeape is going to have to shield early and often here, as this Annihilape is just going to look to ramp up more and more. These boosted counters are about to get very, very scary. However, I should be able to wait a turn when I get to the next Rage Fist to ensure that this Rage Fist lands on its intended target. So, as I put up the final shield, I'm going to throw one Karate Chop, wait the turn, and see if they switch. They try and go for the catch. In comes Regidrago. I'm able to save the Rage Fist for later, send in Shadow Aurorus, and this game is over. Primeape wins charge attack priority over Annihilape, so even if they farmed me down and left with a Rage Fist, it just simply would not matter. I tank the Dragon Energy, take the knockout with a Weather Ball, Annihilape gets the counter down, but Primeape stored that Rage Fist from earlier, and that's going to be the win. Rage Fist, super effective damage, knocks out Annihilape, as we're able to take game number 1. We move to the next match, leading Ledian into a very spicy Pokemon, Shadow Conkeldurr. My opponent save switches into Oranguru, and it's for matchups like these that I wanted to have Bug Bite. Look at the Bug Bites go. Normally, if you're on Rollout on Ledian, Oranguru can actually do pretty well here, but on Bug Bite, I'm just absolutely destroying this Pokemon. They can fire off Brutal Swing after Brutal Swing. It's simply not going to matter. Ledian is just able to outbulk this Oranguru so severely. Now I can throw 3 Bug Bites and fire off Dynamic Punch. Dynamic will be shielded. Oranguru going to try and get a farm down, but it looks like they're actually the one in danger of getting farmed. I fire off Dynamic Punch. They end up no shielding, and again I've won Switch Advantage and Shield Advantage. In comes Furret. My opponent is triple weak to the Ledian, and I'm going to aggressively pivot and send in the Primeape. I wanted to save the Ledian because I do have a double resistance to Force Palm. My opponent goes for the Brick Break, putting me at -1 defense, and I'm going to be putting myself to -3 defense as I fire off the Close Combat and take the knockout. Back in comes Shadow Conkeldurr. Look at the Force Palm damage. Oh my goodness. It looks like my Primeape is not going to make another move. Will my switch timer come up? Yes, and I can send in Ledian. They're going to try and Force Palm down the Ledian, but Ledian is just too bulky. I'm able to hang on, make the Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch, KO Shadow Conkeldurr. What an incredibly spicy pick from my opponent, but unfortunately, they were just way too weak to Ledian. Bad lead in the next match, Ledian into Gyarados, but they pivot out anyway, assuming that I'm on Rollout. If I was on Rollout, they'd be taking super effective damage. So they pivoted out, they didn't check the fast move, and now I can just tank the Twister and send in my Aurorus for a 1-shield farm down. I believe my Ledian did end up starting the game behind by a turn, so I don't have quite as much residual energy as I would like. But with this team, I kind of want to always try and absorb energy on the Ledian to try and set up either Aurorus or the Primeape for an ability to sweep. My opponent sends back in the Gyarados. I build up past the Meteor Beam, bait with a Weather Ball. I can't quite make the Meteor Beam, so if my opponent's counting, they will know that I'm short. However, even just a neutral Weather Ball will do so much damage onto the Gyarados. Gyarados gets itself incredibly low, and I think Aurorus has done its job. I'm just going to be no shielding and looking for a Bug Bite down with the Ledian. So, timer hit 0, in comes Ledian, in the back is Shadow Crustle, and this game is over. Acrobatics would devastate the Crustle. They're forced to put up the shield, and then I can reveal it's Primeape. They're completely walled, and unfortunately for my opponent, they're just forced to resign the match. We move to the next match, leading Ledian into Shadow Annihilape. This is a pretty bad lead. Annihilape has a double resistance to Bug Bite, so unfortunately I have basically no fast move pressure here. This Annihilate is also on low kick, which means it is way faster pacing than the counter variant. The good news is I should be able to survive a Rage Fist and a +1 Rage Fist, meaning that I won't have to give up a Protect Shield for quite some time. I build up to Acrobatics, bait with Dynamic Punch, and I'm able to get a shield from my opponent. They are pretty close to 2 more Rage Fists here, but I'm always going to be no shielding as this won't take the knockout, but they're actually running Ice Punch, and Ledian gets KO'd. This is very bad. I did not consider Annihilate whatsoever when it came to team building, and unfortunately that means I'm probably going to end up losing this game. They're now double boosted, they get to these Rage Fists incredibly quickly, I fire off a Rage Fist of my own, but the fact that I send in a Primeape is a dead giveaway that I am weak to Annihilate, so my opponent will put up the shield. I'm going to be shielding back, I'm just going to fire off the Rage Fist to get rid of Annihilate, and they make a devastating catch onto Licky Licky. This is double resisted, and they're going to outpace me here, so I'm going to have to farm up, go for a Body Slam catch, but they read the catch, over farm. They would have let me get the close combat, and there's just no path forward in this game. Oh my goodness, I was so weak to Annihilate, but my opponent just played absolutely perfectly. Wow, what a game from my opponent. I will be able to fire off 1 Powder Snow in the Weather Ball here, taking advantage of the new DRE mechanic, but there's basically nothing in the back that I could ever beat, except maybe like a Furret, but I don't think it's likely it's going to be Furret. In the back, it's going to be Jumpluff, and I'm going to immediately resign the match. We move to the next match and pick up an incredibly good lead, Ledian into Araquanid. My opponent safe switches into a Shadow Aurorus, and now I just get to send in Primeape. I don't need switch advantage against Shadow Araquanid, because I'm going to have a very good matchup with both the Ledian and my own Shadow Aurorus, so I just no-shield the Primeape, fire off the close combat, and guarantee that I have shield advantage. Because if I have shield advantage, I can go for a nasty Powder Snow down with Shadow Aurorus, and then the Araquanid just has nowhere it can go. It has a terrible matchup into both the Shadow Aurorus and into the Ledian. They're going to get aggressive, pivoting back in the Araquanid, but I'm just not leaving the field. I'm just going straight Meteor Beam. Meteor Beam is going to be no-shielded. They get farmed down, and now I have a +1 Shadow Aurorus that's up a ton of energy. If they choose to bring in their own Aurorus, they're just going to get farmed down in the back. That's a very cool spice pick. It's Shadow Galvantula, but unfortunately, there's just no path forward in this game. Shadow Aurorus is on an absolute rampage, and there will be no survivors. Aurorus has already taken 1 KO. It's taking the 2nd KO here, and for the full sweep, we're going to be Powder Snowing down their Shadow Aurorus to secure the win. Hopping into the next match, we pick up a pretty nice lead, Ledian into Lunatone. Lunatone has access to double super effective damage with Rock Slide, but look at the Bug Bites go. Bug Bite is absolutely shredding through Lunatone's health bar, so I will put up the shield, look to fire off Dynamic Punch, but they pivot out of the matchup, saving Lunatone and sending in Licky Licky. I'm going straight for Dynamic Punch. They end up no shielding. Honestly, I would have preferred a shield there, and now I'm going to be bringing in Primeape. I'm running the non-Shadow Primeape, which means that I do actually survive whatever they throw here. It can be Body Slam, it can be Shadow Ball. Either way, I'm able to hold on. I can't quite get the farm down. I have to hope a double resisted Rage Fist will take the knockout. My opponent puts up the shield, and I'm able to win charge stack priority. Now my Primeape is at +2 attack, and I'm pretty confident that I'm outside of Psywave downrange from the Lunatone. So I'm just going to double shield and farm down. If they pivot into the Lunatone, I can just stay on the field, make the Rage Fist, and this Rage Fist is easily going to be knocking out Lunatone. So now my opponent's in a very tough spot. I have a +3 attack Primeape. I don't have a lot of HP on it, but the Primeape is very, very boosted. My opponent's going to wait down the timer. What do they have in the back? Clock hits 0. It's going to be a Jumpluff in the back, and this game is over. In comes Shadow Aurorus. I can very comfortably just farm up to the back-to-back Weather Balls and guarantee the win. Even if my opponent goes for a catch here, which they end up doing, that's not going to end up making any kind of a difference, just because I'm at the back-to-back. Weather Ball KOs Licky Licky. Weather Ball number 2 is going to be knocking out the Jumpluff. So thank goodness we were able to set everything up perfectly there. The Primeape put in so much work into my opponent's team, and then Shadow Aurorus absolutely feasted on that Jumpluff. We move to the next match, picking up a slightly negative lead, leading Ledian into Lapras. This is a matchup where Rollout would be better. Rollout would give me faster pacing and super effective damage into the Lapras, whereas I can't quite Bug Bite down before my opponent is going to make it to the back-to-back Sparkling Aria. Sparkling Aria will not two-shot, but it is going to be putting my Ledian very, very low. So I'm just going to look to absorb this damage and pivot into the Primeape. Primeape hits the field, and so does Regidrago. I'm expecting my opponent's going to no-shield, so I'm going straight for the close combat. Let's lock in some damage here. Close combat connects. Regidrago barely able to hang on, and I decide that Primeape has done its job. I'm going to win or lose this game on the back of Shadow Aurorus. So I send in Aurorus, get the farm down, and in the back, they have Jumpluff, and I should be in a very good position. My plan here is pretty simple. I'm just going to Meteor Beam and farm everything down. But the moment I click Meteor Beam, I realize I've made a mistake. Farm down is not the win con. Going straight for the Weather Ball would have been the win con, so that way I could always be able to outpace the Lapras. Now there's a very real concern that Lapras is going to be able to outpace me. I think I need to catch the win. Unfortunately, even though I'm boosted, these are double resisted Powder Snows. I fire off the Weather Ball, I'm going to throw one more Powder Snow and try for the catch. I go for the catch, in comes Ledian, they sidewave me down, they survive with just a fraction of HP remaining, and unfortunately this game will end in defeat. I'll be honest, when I saw the jump bluff, I thought the game was over. I went for the Meteor Beam, and that ended up costing me. What a tragic way to lose. We see a very neutral lead in the next match, Ledian into Regidrago. Ledian is going to be able to spam out these Dragon Energies like it's nothing. I'm going to bank the energy and get Primeape on the field. Primeape is going to get outpaced, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I can shield up and then look to overfarm. My opponent goes for the Vice Grip. They send in a Lapras, and they must be so weak to Primeape. I farm up to the back-to-back close combats. I'm going straight for it. I want to guarantee both shields or the one-hit KO. Lapras calls the bait, and they get one shot. I'm at -2 defense, but I still have the close combat banked. My opponent brings back in the Regidrago. This is not Rage Fist range, so once again, I'm going for close combat. Close combat's landing left and right. In the back is going to be Crustle. I'm able to make it to a third close combat. Primeape on an absolute rampage, getting the shield, and now I can bring in Ledian. Ledian is able to make Dynamic Punch. This should be guaranteeing a shield for my opponent, as it did build up to Acrobatics. I would love to try and finish the game with Ledian. Unfortunately, I don't know if I have enough in the tank here. I do have a Dynamic Punch, but I don't think Dynamic Punch would quite take the knockout. They go for the X-Scissor. I'm going for Dynamic Punch. Come on, Ledian, get the sweep. Dynamic Punch lands. Crustle survives, and unfortunately, my opponent is going to see my final Pokemon. We're still going to get the win, but it would have been cool if Ledian could have closed it out. We just need one Powder Snow from Aurorus to farm down the Crustle and take the win. We see a terrible lead in the next match, Ledian into Corsola. That is a matchup that would be made better with rollout, but still pretty bad because Power Gem still hits for double super effective. But Primeape's ability to just severely outpace Corsola can make life pretty uncomfortable for opponents. So I send in the Primeape, and I'm just going to start boosting up more and more and more. I don't throw the Rage Fist right away because I always want to try and have residual energy. This Rage Fist at +1 will not take the knockout, but now I can fire off another Rage Fist and at the very least get shields back. So now we're in the one shield. My opponent's going to have to throw energy here. They try for the farm down. Oh no, you can't do that anymore. On the new system, damage registration error is guaranteed. They try for the farm down. They do not get it. And now I send in Ledian. My opponent pivots out. They save the energy. In comes Licky Licky. But Ledian's actually going to do pretty well here. I can fire off Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch is going to hit for big damage onto the Licky Licky. And I'm very okay just using this Ledian as a damage sponge. Shadow Ball will do a decent amount of damage. My opponent will need a Shadow Ball to take the knockout, but they don't build up for it. They just go for the Body Slam. This should set up a diabolical farm down for Shadow Aurorus. In comes Shadow Aurorus. We get the farm down. What do they have in the back? Shadow Meteor Beam hits very hard. Oh no, it's their own Aurorus. Yeah, this game is over. There's just no way out. Meteor Beam is always going to be one-shotting here. My Aurorus one-shots theirs. They have a move on Corsola, but I have a shield, so they're just going to resign the match. We get a terrible lead in the final match, Ledian into Shadow Altaria. I save switch Primeape, pretend that I have Ice Punch, and my opponent pivots out and sends in Kingdra. I wonder if they're running Triple Dragon. Triple Dragon is a viable strategy in the Retro Cup. However, Pokemon like Shadow Aurorus can do well at trying to fight back. The good news for me is that I didn't honestly take a lot of Dragon Breath damage before my opponent pivoted. I'm very heavily boosted, even my Karate Chops are doing a ton of damage, and I will put up the shield. If I can win switch advantage, even with all that Altaria energy, Aurorus is just going to destroy them. So I fire off the Rage Fist, that's going to take the knockout. Altaria is going to be able to farm me down. My opponent pivots out, sending in Gyarados. They tried to get up energy, but I make the Rage Fist on DRE, pressure away the final shield, and now the game is over. I can send in the Bug Bite Ledian. Rollout would have been so strong into this team, but the fact that I have a shield advantage means that even with resisted Bug Bite, I should still be okay. Shadow Aquatail will not take the 2-hit KO. The bulk on Ledian is crazy. Ledian is one of the worst typings in the entire game, and that's part of what makes it not an overpowered monster, because its typing is just really not that good. Acrobatics KOs the Gyarados. In comes Altaria, answered with the Aurorus, and my opponent will resign the match. Oh, it turns out that was not the final match. This will be the final match, and it's going to be Ledian into Arctobax. Arctibax is a very cool pick. I'm just going to fire off Dynamic Punch as soon as I get there. And Dynamic, I mean, they're going to have to put up the shield here because it's just going to hit way too hard. My opponent safe switches into a rollout Ledian, and it's very cool to see someone else trying this Mon. Even though Weather Ball hits for super effective, I have so much respect for Ledian's stat product that I'm going to be full sending Meteor Beam. I honestly don't think that a Weather Ball would take the KO. So I fire off Meteor Beam, Ledian calls the bait, and they will get KO'd. That's a big swing of momentum over to me. My opponent reveals their final Pokemon in the back is going to be a Shadow Milotic. That is a very, very spicy pick. I think that I am in a winning position here. Even though Aurorus will get absolutely destroyed by an Aqua Tail, I can send in Primeape. And because I'm the regular Primeape, I should always be able to survive an Aqua Tail. I think my opponent's win con is to call a bait, so I go straight for the close combat, but they sniff it out, they put up the shield, I try for the catch, it's a simultaneous switch, Ledian into Arctibax. Arctibax will fire off energy. It's going to be the Icy Wind. Ledian, can I make Dynamic Punch? Yes, I can, and I think that's going to seal it. Since I switched out and I was able to reset that -2 defense drop on the Primeape, Primeape should still be outside of range where one move from Milotic will take the KO. So Milotic does get the farm down, but now I can bring in Primeape and always click no shield. My opponent's win con is to go for Wrap into Aqua Tail. They go for the Wrap. We make the close combat, and we're going to get the win. I have so much respect for my opponent's team. Arctibax, Shadow Milotic, and Ledian is an incredibly spicy team. I love to see other trainers on leaderboards still having fun with it and still trying to find creative ways to get wins. All in all, is this the best team that you could use in the Retro Cup? I would say definitely not. Some people did end up trying the team and had some okay to positive results, but it's still not a team that I'm like shouting from the rooftops that it's the greatest team you've ever seen. I'll be honest, I just wanted to run Ledian today, and I'm pretty happy that I was able to find a moveset that ended up working in my ELO bracket. I do think that Rollout Ledian is very, very viable. We saw my opponent in the final battle use Rollout Ledian, and Rollout has some matchups where it can put in a ton of work. Like against a lot of the Flyers, Rollout can actually do very, very nicely. Bug Bite mainly only targets the things like the Psychic types. I ended up running into a lot of Pokemon like Furret and the Psychic type, so Bug Bite ended up working out pretty nicely, but there were a few matchups where if my opponents knew that I was on Bug Bite and just stayed in with their Flyer, I probably would have gotten destroyed. Like there was one game I think where a Shadow Gyarados pivoted out when they could have stayed in and destroyed me, assuming that I had Rollout. So it's a team that I don't think would work now that it's known, just because the team kind of relied on people not really knowing what's behind a Bug Bite Ledian. After today, I'm not sure how much more Retro Cup I'll end up playing as the queue times were pretty rough. But hey, if this is the only day that I end up playing Retro Cup this week and I end up playing Masters primarily, this is still a pretty fun day of battles, and I'm very happy that I was able to get some wins with Ledian. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do help support the channel by leaving a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not, and an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide to the channel is so appreciated, so thank you guys so very much, and until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.